Well, we've got lucky and we found what those topi were running from. It's this female cheetah who is very, very intent on finding a meal. You can see she's incredibly alert. She's just spotted these Thompson's gazelle. A little bit slow on the uptake, sweethearts, because they spotted you long ago. So it'll be interesting to see if she has a go for them. I don't think she will, because she knows full well that they have got their sights locked on her. But she is pacing about with serious, serious intent. We found her, I would say, a kilometer from the other two cheetah. Can you believe how fortunate we are to have so many cheetah in the area that we've decided to come? Oh, there goes the Thompson's gazelle male for a closer inspection, making sure he knows exactly what he's up against. And as long as they do know what they're up against, the prey will most often escape. Let's get a bit closer. We just wanted to get onto the side of the Tommies in case she did have a go for them. There's another herd of topi up ahead here, and there are some young topi within the herd, and that's what she's heading straight towards. Now, like that other herd of topi which helped lead us to this female cheetah, they're very switched on, the female topis. I'm very impressed by their ability to spot the predators from far and then immediately start taking their youngsters away. Another thing that topi are good at doing is chasing predators off their kills, so I'm told, or off their youngsters if they do manage to bring them down. So we could have an epic showdown here. There's a whole plethora of game up ahead of us: zebra, wildebeest, eland, topi, I'm sure one or two Thompson's gazelle. There's a massive herd. Very good. Well, while we get into position, we're going to send you across to Topi playing with Taylor.
They were playing with me. It was so cute, Scott. They were all bouncing around, testing out their legs. And now they've all settled down. I think they're a little bit tired now. It's very important that they do play with one another, so that if anything does try to chase after them and eat them, they've got a little bit of experience at running at full speed and then turning at the absolute last second. So even though they might be expending valuable energy, it's also very important. It helps develop the muscles. There they go, and one goes again. Go, 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 little Topi. They are so precious, and they are quick. I can't believe how quick they can run. Their legs are a little bit long and gangly, though. But they'll eventually get a little bit more coordinated and be able to, well, outrun a cheetah. Not yet, though. One day. But they're not the most attractive little things, are they? Look at their little faces. A little shake. Come on. Show us how fast you can go and how high you can jump. You were all doing a spectacular sort of show for us a little while ago, and then even the big male Topi came through, and he was sort of grunting, making strange noises. I assume just reasserting his dominance over the herd and making sure that everybody's in check. But it's very, very calm and quiet now. It's okay, girl, don't worry. We're not going to worry about your little one. We're just watching and observing. Just see what they're looking at. They just started staring. Oh, what a pity. What an absolute pity. But we'll get them again. I'm hoping that they're going to get another sort of sugar rush. I'm just quickly checking around to see if anyone is going to start playing. Who's going to run for us next? Come on, I know you want to. Surely that can't be all your energy wasted after that short little sprint. Now, Philip, you're wondering if Topi's prunk, I suppose they try their absolute best. They can bounce around quite a bit. I don't think they're as good as, as stotting as when the gazelles start to bounce around. It's pretty cool. There they are. The little ones seem to do it the most, but I think that's just because they're quite excited. Come on, run. No, they're not going to do it anymore. Typical. Animals know when we're live and when we're not, let me tell you that. Actually, this is very pretty. Have a look at this scene. That's quite nice. With the clouds and the silhouetted Topi on the skyline. It's always nice, and one zebra to move around. That's a very nice shot, I think. I think that's pretty. Little ones moving about. Here's a little one testing its legs out now. Bounce, bounce, bounce for us. Isn't that gorgeous? And the little ones will group together. They'll play around with one another. There we go. Those are perfect pictures. I hope you're all taking full advantage of this. If I was a guest, I'd be snapping away. It's not often that you get a sighting lined up perfectly like that. Also with a vehicle going past. Oh, that makes it even better. It just shows you that this is real and we are on a safari. Oh well, it was pretty. Okay, let's carry on. Bye, Topi. I don't know what we're going to do. We tried to go to those lioness. It wasn't very nice. It was quite far away. We couldn't really see the rhinos anymore either. Okay, we're going to head towards the river now. Let's go back across to Scott and his cheetah.
Where's she gone? There she is.
And now?
And if we wait where we are or go, it seems like she's...
Well, we're still in the area of where Shadow and Cub were last night, but it is amazing to see what's been taking place here. There is just tracks everywhere for everything, and it's going to be really interesting to try and decode exactly what has happened over the last little bit. But essentially what we see is that hyenas and Shadow and Cub is what we expected to find, but what we didn't expect to find is the following, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I've circled these tracks so that you can see what was here, but up and down this whole section of road at the moment is tracks for every kind of animal you can think of, but the two really interesting ones are the ones that I've circled. Obviously the one is a hyena and we know that, but I've circled it just so that you can get a nice size comparison between the lions that were also in this area. So it seems as though the Sticks and the Birminghams arrived at this kill as well and have been up and down this area all over the place. Now on this side we have the lioness track, so one of the Sticks females. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, the 3 lobes at the back very clearly defined, and if I put my hand there you get a rough idea of the size of it. It's not for one of the big Birmingham boys, that one is somewhere else. I'll try and get to it just now, but you can see it's rather large. You can also see a lot of flies landing all over my hand. Then if we shift a little bit to the left, you can see the hyena track from yesterday. So this is a large female hyena track, so it just gives you a nice indication between adult female lion versus adult female hyena. You can see the difference in the shape as well. You've got a pad that goes to the back with 1, 2 lobes, these toes that are very squashed together, banana shapes, and then the presence of the claws in front. If we look at the lion track, there's no claw marks at all, and the toes are much more evenly spaced around. So it seems as though I think that Shadow and Cub were here, Sticks Pride arrived, and must have been chaos that exploded. And it's difficult to make out where the tracks go because everybody's tracks are going in every direction. There's male lions going in there, coming back, females up and down, but it looks like eventually Shadow veered off to the west with the Cub and the lions carried on south. So we're going to try and just see what we can do. Rex says to me that the Shadow Cub tracks have crossed probably to Arethusa. He says they've crossed the road that is on our western side and then going towards Triple M, and it's not far from Triple M at all. So he thinks they would have got quite a fright from this, but at least both their tracks are going in that direction towards Arethusa and that the lions didn't get hold of them. But we're going to probably carry on with the lion tracks just because, well, hopefully they've gone back towards where the Cubs are. I don't know if Noel found any other signs, but these tracks look as though they're pretty good. Now what I want to show you as well while we're walking is to try and find one of the male lion tracks, just to give you an indication of just how much bigger the Birmingham boys' feet are. Now Tinho in particular seems to have rather large feet in comparison to some of the others. I don't know why. I think his feet, always when I track him, seem to look really quite big in comparison to the other guys. So here we go. Here's one of his tracks over here. So you can see immediately just by standing here that it is already a much wider track, and look at the sort of how deep the track goes. Much heavier animal, and so his track is probably the size of my hand. So if I put my hand there, you can see the tip of the back of the track. If we draw a line, and we'll draw a line from the front, if I put my hand like that, you can see it's pretty much my entire hand, as well as the width of my hand. So this is a massive, massive, massive footprint that you see from this guy here. So it seems as though it must have been a chaotic evening in this particular section. I think everybody must have got a bit of a fright, and maybe the hyenas also ran off. But there's absolutely nothing left for the carcass. We can't find a single bone anywhere here, not even the horns. So between everybody, everything has been utilized and destroyed. So amazing stuff. The other thing that I found while we've been walking, since we were doing eggs this morning, it's a bit windy and it's a bit small, but I was talking about the amazing thing about eggs, and sorry guys, it's just the wind is blowing very badly, but I'm going to try and just turn it for you. Sorry, Jandre. There we go, and let's just try and protect from the wind. But I was talking about the various colors of eggs and how eggs fascinate me because they're so different. Now, we saw a great example of camouflage in the form of the lapwing eggs, and we saw how amazingly sort of mottled they were. But this, you can see, is completely not camouflage at all. It is a bright powder blue. As to which egg it is, a bit debatable. It's because it's squashed and it's a bit broken up. Can't really get an accurate indication of size. Don't laugh at me, Jandre. Accurate indication of size. So it could be anything from a Aramark babbler or maybe a fork-tailed drongo is probably what my guess would be. Where we found it was in a little drainage line, and both drongos and Aramark babblers will utilize those kind of areas. So amazing coloration, though. It's just kind of this powder blue is very, very cool to see. So nice to add a little bit of color to our morning with a little eggshell as well. But let's not waste any time. Let's see if we can try and find where these lines have gone. Like I say, they've moved straight south down the road, so we're going to try and pick them up and see where they go. Now, Rachel, you say maybe a robin's egg? Possible. Like I say, difficult to say. It's not a very big egg, I can tell you that. So that sort of size range, so babbler, drongo, robin size, so roughly around there was where I would estimate it to be. It's got no mottling on it whatsoever, so there's no little brown patches. It's completely blue all the way through, so it'll be interesting to see. I'll try and go back and have a little look. I mean, obviously I've got a rough idea of its sort of the size of it and the curvature of it, so we might be able to get close, but I think to have the exact bird is going to be quite difficult. But anyway, it's at least something very interesting to see. And we're going to carry on, like I say, with the tracks. We're going to try and see if we can give Noel a hand with these, given that they were all over this place. And so while we do that, let's go across to the lady herself and find out where she is and how her tracking is going for the morning.
Looks like Tingana has given us a slip once again, but Tingana has now given me a goal of getting him on camera from my vehicle or my own 2 feet, depending, for all of you. So we've left that area. I wanted to come and check the hyena den. We're just busy coming up now. We might get lucky, you never know. I have a feeling that the cheeky little hyenas that took over Shadow's kill yesterday are from this den. And we've been seeing lots of the adult tracks around. The little ones are still a bit little for heading out, but I do know that there's cubs of different ages here. Let's see if they're out and about for us. And sadly, nothing at the moment. Alright, well, I do know from talking with the guys that this den site sometimes floods a little bit, and we did have quite a bit of rain. I don't know if maybe they've moved. I'm not seeing any fresh tracks around the actual mouth of the den on top of where the rain would have been. So that's entirely a possibility. We'll just have to keep checking. I don't think anything's happened to them. I just think that sometimes this in the summertime this happens. So I think what we're going to do, we had lots of elephant tracks coming through. They've gone into some thick areas. I think what we're going to do is just make a little bit of a loop and see if maybe we can pick up on the nkuhumas. And if not, maybe do some birding. I would really like, there's been a lot of cuckoos calling. I'd like to see if we can get a cuckoo, maybe a Jacobin's or a red-chested cuckoo on camera for you. The Piet my Vrouw. And sadly our sun is going away. This cloud cover is coming through nicely. Snazzy, you're wondering if male hyenas, similar with other mammal species, are larger than the females. And no. With hyenas, it's the opposite. The females are 20 kilograms, so around about 50 pounds larger than the males. It is a matriarchal society. The males are not allowed near the den sites. They get kicked away. But what is interesting is that if a female has a male and a female cub, two together, she'll do her best to keep that male cub alive, because that cub's going to get kicked away when it grows up, and that's going to be her genes carrying on out to other clans. If she's the matriarch, then her daughter will become the matriarch eventually, unless there's a huge takeover. If she gets killed and the little one is still too little to take over, then another female will take over. But that's an interesting thing. I've even seen females that are non-related to clans get adopted into a clan over a related male. They're at the bottom end. Women rule with hyenas. The males are down at the absolute bottom. Great question. Keep them coming. Is on his walk already, which is good. It's very good. And we could hear them when we were busy looking for our cheeky Tingana. There's a lot of predator activity happening. It's just finding it. Taylor is up in the Masai Mara, driving around. I believe she's had some excellent sightings thus far this morning. We are going to head back up to her and see what she has to say.
We're driving at a speed, as our game drive is now not a game drive anymore. It's turned into a taxi service. We've got to go all the way to Serena now to pick up one of our engineers, I suppose, our tech team, Martin, Microwave Martian Martin. So unfortunately we're not going to be able to do what we wanted to do this morning. Maybe we can try again tomorrow or the day after. No, my time is running out. Not that I'm leaving, but I'm going on holiday soon. Very excited. So that's how excited I am that I did hands up into the air and sounded like an idiot saying it. So we're basically just going to head on that way. I'm driving relatively quickly because we were on the northeastern corner of the triangle, and Serena's a fair distance away from where we've got to go now. So we're just sort of going to head in that direction, and hopefully, maybe if we're lucky, we see some spectacular things along the way. Make sure there's no cars. Right, that's my plan this morning. So we'll see if we find anything cool along the river road. However, Scott has got a cheetah on a kill.
Well, we just missed her in action. I'm guessing by a few minutes. We had to loop around a riverbed, which took us longer than we had hoped to find a crossing point. And by the time we got here, she had already caught this young reedbuck. And what's interesting is that the hunting technique she employed was quite interesting. She was basically just running through this belt of thick vegetation to our left and hoping to flush reedbuck. Reedbuck tend to hide out there during the daylight hours, and by running through there like a dog, she obviously flushed this youngster and then managed to catch up with it and kill it. So well done to her for getting her breakfast. I'm not sure which female cheetah this is. You can see she's very alert, making sure that no other predators have seen her in action. she'll be concerned for them coming in and possibly harming her in the process of stealing her kill. Now, as much as I would like to stay here, I feel that we should rush back to the other two cheetah who we left snoozing, because they could get up and active at any moment. Just give it a few more minutes here just to make sure a hyena doesn't come running in onto the scene, as that could well happen. Hi Jody, you'd like to know what would happen if this cheetah came across the other two that we were with? Probably not a whole bunch. And from what I believe is that these cheetah often actually know where one another are, even though we may not realize that. And on a number of occasions, we've had cheetah in very close proximity to others, but no real interactions. And especially when it's female cheetah interacting with other females and their youngsters, they don't have territories that they fight over, so everyone's allowed to be wherever they like. So I think they kind of just pass one another and not really have too much to do with one another. But I have yet to see any encounters between two different sets of cheetah. That's in my whole entire life. So it's only a guesstimate as to what I think will happen. Kind of kicking myself. We could have possibly actually just stayed on the other side of the riverbed and tried to film her from there, but we just didn't know what she was up to. Okay, well, I think we are going to leave her in peace and go and make the most of the fact that there are another two cheetah nearby, and hopefully we will be able to capture them in action. And we are going to send you off to Noel, who's looking at a hole in a tree.
Scott, I'm looking at a hole in a marula tree. There were 3 squirrels, little family of squirrels, and they very quickly fit inside that tiny little hole. That hole is probably the size, if I had to put it into North American, it's like a silver dollar, about the size of a silver dollar. So not that large, or maybe the size of the inside of a medium to small potato. Not a tiny potato, let's say medium potato. So they can manage to squish their bodies in quite nicely. Now, with the sunshine that's starting to come out a little bit, I have been sitting here patiently with bated breath, hoping that they will pop their little heads out. This tree is not dead, it is still alive, but there are parts of it that are definitely hollow and have rotted away a little bit. This beautiful marula tree. And so they will they have their nest in there, and then they'll do things like take the fruits from the marulas, and take the seeds out of the pips and store them inside of a place like this. It's also a wonderful home for any hole nesting birds like barbets or woodpeckers, or even the hornbills, starlings, for instance. Those would also be a good one. But they seem to not want to play our game of hide and go seek, where we've sucked them. That's the wrong word. We found them. And then they must come out and show themselves. They've decided to just head on in. Oh, there was a gorgeous amethyst sunbird that just flew past. Let me just find it for you in the book. There's all of these amazing little things that flit past that we can't always get to. Oh, sorry, excuse me. It was a scarlet-chested, not an amethyst. There we go. This one here, it was the male of this one. That is my first scarlet-chested for the season, so I will be ticking that off today. If we look over with the amethyst shows a little bit darker, and when it flew past, it had that red, which is one of the reasons why I noticed it. Very decurved beak to get into the nectar of the flowers. Decurve is an overcurve. You'll also find birds like hoopoes have a decurved beak as well, but that's for probing of insects. Okay, let's carry on with our search for whatever happens to be out here. I am silly and forgot my jersey today, so as this cloud cover comes and the wind picks up, I'm huddling. Senzo is covered in about 8 layers in the back. Ashuka, no, but Senzo, then you don't have a blanket, buddy. What if your legs get cold? Thank you, Senzo. Which will be nice to see, of course. We always love a lion. So let's head on over to her and see if she can get a bit of action.
And one of the other boys. We've got a variety of cats this morning. We've got 2 of our friends from last night, which we sat and listened to roaring, just from the mains. I think it is the Chitwa boys, and that looks like maybe the tailless male. And then, if you go a little bit further to the right and towards the escarpment, there's another male and a female, and a Thompson's gazelle. As you can see, there they are. So with that male laying so close to that girl, I wonder if this is not a honeymoon couple, and that Thompson's gazelle is being particularly rude, watching them like that, don't you think? Give them a bit of privacy, come on, man. They've already got the people watching them. That Tommy does know, though, that those lions are there. It wouldn't stupidly just walk up. Well, I suppose they could walk up to them if they were laying flat in the grass, but you can see she's got her head up. So it does know that he's there. He's just keeping them in their sights, which is a very, very clever thing to do. And then these boys, they haven't walked too far. They haven't moved too much in terms of how lions can travel sort of distances at night. They've maybe walked a few kilometers, that's all. But we're in the area where we often see those 2 lionesses, so that must be one of them. Although we did hear 4 male lions roaring last night, and I did say that I could see a lioness that was lying out in the open, very, very far away last night. I didn't get to show you because it was that far away, and maybe it was a male and a female. It was very difficult to tell. The grass was a little bit on the long side, and they were laying particularly flat. It doesn't look like they hunted anything, though. I don't think they were necessarily or keen for something to eat last night. Those boys were making a noise right until the early hours of this morning. So I think they were just mainly worried about proclaiming their territory and just re-announcing to everybody that this area is occupied and that they should be careful, especially when you've got 4 big, strong males. Now, there are lots and lots of cars racing into the sighting this morning. And then they sit, just twitching their ears. They probably won't lay out here for too much longer. We are, again, not in an off-roading area. They might go towards some shade, and it's quite close by, in fact, so they don't have to go too far either. And then they'll just rest there. I don't think they'll move too much, especially if they've been walking most of last night. I just heard those roars coming from every angle of the triangle. I think everybody was just telling all the other lions where they are. Lovely. Okay, I think we're going to go now. Let's head towards Serena. We're very, very far away still. Now, Stephen, you're wondering what determines what areas are off-road and not. It's basically got to do with high-use areas. So in the triangle, you can pretty much off-road most places except along the rivers, sort of the migration route, I would say, because that's the most common one. And you don't actually need an off-roading permit for the triangle. Pretty much anyone is allowed to off-road here. So it's different to the Masai Mara National Reserve, where there you need an off-roading permit. Just like in Kruger, where you would have to stick to the roads. Normal people that don't have special permits would have to stick to just stay on the roads, as with the grassy tracks and all these different types of things. So up against the river where the forests are, you aren't normally allowed to off-road, and the same would go for areas like the Masai Mara National Reserve. Sorry, I'm staring straight into the sun now every time I look back at the camera. And we try not to drive in those sensitive areas, even though on the other side of the reserve you're allowed to. We just know how important they are and how we need to preserve the forest, so we try not to go driving through there. Bounce, bounce, these are bumpy roads, but these are the kind of roads where the big trucks come and they get stuck. Right, and speaking of off-roading, Tristan is, but I thought he was on bushwalk. I suppose he can off-road wherever he likes, leaving only a small footprint.
Indeed I can, Taylor. I can go wherever I want, and as long as my little legs can take me there, then I shall be fine. But to continue with our nesting birds and eggs and all the other things, we just came past our vulture nest as we were tracking these lines, which seem to have crossed south into Little Gari and that side, but we came across the vulture, who's being very well hidden today. It's kind of in its nest at the moment. All you can see really is just the back of its wings. It's tucked down and is probably hiding a little bit from us. At the end of the day, I don't think this vulture's seen too many people on foot at this range, and so probably find a little nervous of that. There's no adults in sight either, so it'll probably be just trying to camouflage itself as much as possible. And it's amazing actually how well that bird blends in on that nest. The nest is obviously a brown sticky construct, and its brown back and wings and the sort of ruffled feathers that it does have actually blends in incredibly well, and so that bird is very well hidden. I would imagine we are, like I was been referring to them in many times that we have seen this nest over the last few months, is that I'm pretty sure this bird is going to start flying at some stage. At the moment it's just spending its time kind of in the nest or around the nest, but like I say, I have seen it moving around the tree quite a bit. The other day I actually had it right in the top left hand side of that marula tree, and so it was obviously branch hopping, and as it branch hops it will put its wings out, and those wings start to develop muscular structure and muscle memory and as to how to work, and eventually we'll start to see these small little flights taking place, and so soon we should hopefully see that one flying. I wonder if its parents are the ones that were there by shadow, because I had 2 whiteback vultures there this morning, so it'd be interesting to know if those were the adults for this particular nest, or if maybe it's a different set of whiteback vultures. Obviously there's a lot of whiteback vultures in this area, and if you go into Arathusa, there's a number of nests that line the Maraking and Manyeleti drainage lines, so it's an interesting kind of thing, and I think potentially it could be. I mean, it's right near the nest. It's a very short flight. The thing is, though, is they did take off and leave, and they have not returned into this area, unless they took off when they saw us walking along the road. But I definitely didn't see any vultures flying when we were walking towards the nest. But it's good to see the little chick is still healthy, still happy. Now that it's the size that it is, there's very few predators that it has to worry about. I mean, a leopard could potentially be a danger, so, you know, somebody like Hosanna would be able to do that. I've seen old male leopards try it as well. There used to be an old male. He was seen once here on Djuma, if I remember, and he walked from here and then he went all the way down through Londolozi down to Lion Sands, and we've got to be careful of a landmine. Don't want to be standing on fresh dung too much, and that male leopard used to climb and hunt fish eagles, and used to go right up into the tree, and there's some amazing videos of it going sort of 30 meters into the air to go and get fish eagle chicks out of their nest. So it does happen from time to time. Right, now talking about spotted cats, Scotty D is still with his cheetah. It seems as though he's having an epic morning with all kinds of cheetah from all directions, and it seems as though they are still moving and still doing things. So let's go across to him.
Yes, we are back with Mayali and her boy. This is the young boy. You can see his fluffy mane, and looks like they could be thinking about getting up, but it looks like he's quite well fed, as does she. I always find them tricky animals to be certain of how well they're fed, even when they've stood up. But just from that kind of glimpse of him, at least a little bit upright, it looks like he is in fact going to be okay for today. So maybe they're not going to be pressed on doing too much moving and or hunting, but I could be wrong. And who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and get some other reports from other guides as to the whereabouts of the Musketeer Coalition and or any other cheetah. A massive thanks to James Richard again for helping to identify that female cheetah that made the reedbuck kill. Her name is Nashipa and is daughter of Rani, another female cheetah in this area. So thank you so much, James. Well done. You're getting your cheetah IDing skills honed, and I'm very, very grateful for that, as I'm sure a lot of the other viewers are. She is looking quite alert, but who knows whether that's just because of the windy weather. Hi Joshua, you'd like to know if cheetahs strip the fur off their prey. They try to avoid it, where possible, but a lot depends on the actual prey type, and sometimes they do ingest the hair along the way as they try and get as much of that carcass in their belly as possible. So I haven't seen them doing it, to the same degree that leopard will try and remove the hair from their prey. But they do try and avoid it where possible. Often though with kills you'll see a lot of the predators do ingest a lot of the fur. Even though they may not enjoy it, they do get some nutritional value from chewing on the skin within which that fur is found. Oh, a big Cape buffalo lurking on the scene. As well as some other tourists. We gave them the flashing headlight trick from a distance just to let them know that there was some action here. It's quite a fun way of Morse coding to other people to come to wherever you may be for some excitement. Very good. Well, we're going to spend some time with these two and see what their plans are for the day. And while we do that, we'll be sending you back to Noel.
All right, we had a cute little insect friend to show you. He's about the size of the head of a screw, and we were trying in vain to keep him on our dashboard. He had orange, he had green, he had this funky little foot structure. It's not something I've ever seen before. I know what it is. But sadly, he decided to hop away, as insects do. And we've got a lilac-breasted roller and carry on his day. We've got a beautiful lilac-breasted roller. You also don't want to sit still. Nothing wants to sit still today, Senzo. I can hear a black cuckoo in the background. Can we hear that? Yeah, I'm so sad. And then we've got a black-headed oriole calling behind me. That I can't copy. Can you see him, Sense? No. And a crested barbet. Can we hear that? Sounds like an old telephone. And of course he stops. A lot of bird calls happening right now. And the wind has picked up a little bit. We're going to carry on. Tristan's found a giant land snail. Let's go.
We have indeed. So our first giant land snail, we were talking about it at the start of Drive this morning, is here. So this is super cool. I love watching these guys. You can kind of just sit with them because they move so slowly. You can kind of lie down and just watch them go about their business. And they're amazing creatures. This is quite a substantial sized one. It's not the smallest individual we have out here. You will find smaller than this, but you also find a little bit bigger. But how cool is that? So you can see how it's basically producing a saliva that, well, not a saliva, but a secretion that is helping lubricate its foot pad, and so it leaves this big sort of scum line, and that's why there's a lot of soil that's actually sticking to it at the moment. So as it secretes this lubrication, that's what helps it to slide over the surface of the soil, and unfortunately a few soil particles do stick from time to time, and it actually makes it why tracking these guys is actually quite easy, because they leave scrape marks much like you would see from a porcupine's quill or even the sort of bristles on a hippo's mouth. But they're amazing creatures. I absolutely love these giant land snails. You can see massive foot pad area, huge shell, and this guy seems as though he's been in some mud because his shell is quite dirty and full of mud at this stage. And then you've got these long eyes that come out. You can see, look, they're quite sort of aware of their surroundings. If I move the stick, you'll find that they do react to the movement of the stick itself. Now, these guys you would think would be easy to eat, and we would find a lot of animals eating them. Funny enough, not actually the case. Very few things do go after these giant land snails. That's why they can move around during the day across roads like this. You would think birds and other things would come and investigate them, but they don't. And even if something does, it will then just suck itself up into the shell. The shell is quite hard and quite sort of robust, and it's difficult for anything really to get into them. Plus, I don't think they taste very good because no one really wants to go after them at all. But amazing to see them. They going to be quite common now over the next few months. We're going to see quite a few of them walking around or slithering around. I don't know what the right word is actually for it, but they're going to be moving around a lot, and we're going to see them crossing roads all over the place. And the really interesting thing about these guys, and it was a sighting last year that James had that was probably one of the most amazing things that I've seen from a giant African giant land snail, was one of these guys eating a marula fruit. And I remember James found one and he put a marula fruit on the dash, and this little thing went over towards it and just started to feast on that marula again. And I want to see if this year we're going to see a lot more of that again. I want to try and see if we have the marulas falling, if these guys will be in abundance around the marula trees, or if it was just a sort of matter of it was there and it sensed that there was these, sugars and fruit juices that it could get, that it went and then fed off it. I think in a situation normally these guys would really struggle to eat marulas because they don't have the mouth parts to break that leathery skin that a marula has, and so you're going to have a situation where you'll have these guys only kind of taking the opportunity when they can, when there's at least some sort of fruit that is available and the actual skin itself has been split. Kelsey, you're wondering how snails know where they're going. Well, they've got eyes, so they're able to see what they're doing, so they can see the world. They're not very good eyes. They're not like ours and can judge depth and those kind of things as well, but they've got eyes, so they can see where they're going. And lots of sensory cells on that face as well, that it helps them just detect sort of changes in terrain and temperatures and all kinds of things, and that will help them move in those areas. You can see they're not exactly fast movers, so it's not like they have to plan on going a long way. What they generally do is try and just move from kind of bush to bush and then try and cross roads here and there, but it takes a long time for them to get anywhere, and it means that you don't see them moving very fast. But eyes is probably their primary source. They've also got little feelers in the front, so you'll see them kind of coming out every now and then. So let's see if it's going to protrude outwards. It should be able to. So you'll see just below these big eyes on top here, there'll be two little protrusions that come out, and those are quite sensory, so those actually feel what's going on. They're able to work out what's happening from those as well, and they'll tuck them in if they're going over a little obstruction, and then out they go again, and it's almost like a little defender. Right, well, I'm going to leave our little land snail to itself. I think it's had a fine sort of appearance for the first one of summer. It's been wonderful to see. I'm going to brush myself off because I'm also covered in sand, and while we do that, let's go back to Noelle. I'm not sure what she's looking at. I didn't hear curse, but I'm sure it will be interesting no matter what it is.
Alright, Senzo and I spy with our 4 eyes something that has hooves. Anyone have any idea who this could be? Which animal do these hooves belong to? It's a split hoof, so he is an even-toed ungulate. An ungulate is a hooved animal. You get an odd-toed ungulate, which would be something like a zebra. Alex says what, Cursed? Hoof is it? Alex, you just made me giggle. Hoof is it? Alright, so an odd-toed ungulate would be something like a zebra, where it's just the one toe. This is 2 toes here. Technically, most hooved animals originally had 4 toes, and then they started elongating, and basically what you're seeing... Jojo, you got it! It's a giraffe! Well done! Yay! You win! Me and Senzo saying yay. So with those hooves, over time during the evolutionary process, it went from 4, and it's basically they're walking on their tippy toes, and if I'm remembering correctly, it's the 2 inner toes, and then the 1st and 4th toe will be back up. Unfortunately, he's looking at us, but will be higher up the leg and then have sort of disappeared a little bit in time. Very, very, very thin legs, knobbly knees. Notice how tight the skin is as we come up. Notice all his scars that he has in there as well. We've talked about necking with giraffes, where they hit each other on the body, and a lot of the times on the legs, they can break legs. You can see on his neck there. You can see on his neck there. He's also been hit on the neck by those horns. And there's his scarring. And then coming up, of course, to where he's been staring at us for a good 15 minutes, and we've been staring at him. There he's chewing his cud, and he's got a little freeloader there, a little red-billed oxpecker, busy working its magic on the ticks on top. You can see the ossicones nicely. And an old male, there's hardly any hair around there, very, very, very bald on top, nice thick ossicones. For those who don't know, an ossicone is calcified cartilage that forms to the top of the skull of the giraffe. They're not stuck on there when they're born, they're floating on the side, and after they're born, come and attach themselves. We sometimes refer to them as horns, but they are not in fact a horn, they are an ossicone. And we try as best as we can to give you all the correct terminology and break it down for you so that you can understand. Yeah, Senzo, well done. So Senzo just stopped there for us. You could see him swallow his cud and then bring it back up, which always gives us a good laugh. Maybe he'll do it again for us. Can we hear that black cuckoo in the background again? That was me whistling. Cursed. I was trying. I'm not a very good whistler. Thanks, Cursed. Alright, chewing, 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 getting as much of the nutrients. There it goes down. Now watch his neck. And there it comes back up. Well done. Now where that oxpecker is sitting on top, you'll notice that there's quite a large lump that's there. Giraffes do something called osteophagy, which is eating bones. And when they eat these bones, it's to consume calcium into their systems. And the male giraffe, female giraffe do it as well, but their bodies tend to then deposit that calcium into these little horny deposits around the head. It's, again, not a horn, it's a little calcium deposit. But especially for the male, it keeps the head thicker and heavier. So when they're doing the necking, when they're fighting and hitting each other, it's actually quite a solid chunk, a heavy solid chunk that it's hitting its opponent with. It would be similar to you headbutting someone, although their skulls are a bit thicker, so I don't think it would necessarily hurt as much, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not a giraffe. Well done, Sens. Thank you. It always amazes me how interesting they find us as much as we find them. I'm convinced that with giraffe, it's not us watching them, it's them watching us, especially when you get a journey or a kaleidoscope or a tower. Those are the three collective nouns for giraffe. They'll sometimes all stop and stare at you, and I'm pretty sure that they're communicating, look at these silly humans, these silly safari paparazzi, and just put on a show. They'll take their photos and move on. I'm convinced of that. Could hear him grinding his teeth there. Could we hear that? There, he did it again. That's okay. He is grinding his teeth a little bit in the back. He's getting a bit annoyed with the oxpeckers. Becca, you're wondering what type of giraffe are in South Africa. So they've recently reclassified the giraffe. We, as far as I understand it, and I'm still busy with my research on this, I'm still busy going through the papers and the annotations that I've collected, but it's still the southern giraffe. But we have one species that occupies South Africa, Botswana, part of Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Namibia, and a little bit up into Angola. So where there used to be several subspecies, the Angolan and the southern in particular, I believe were the two down here, we now just have the one species with, I believe it's one or two subspecies. But Becca, I am going to have to go over my notes again. It's interesting because you get so situated on the knowledge that you have, and then they'll go ahead and do DNA testing and they change it around. We did touch on it briefly a few days ago, and I've been slowly filtering through all of those papers that I need to go through just to get a better grasp of it. But for now, we're just going to say that we have southern giraffe. And then this afternoon, Becca, if you're going to join us again, I will get back to you on a more in-depth and hearty communication on that, and hopefully generate a little bit of discussion. Becca, where Scott and Taylor are, they've got Maasai giraffe as the main giraffe up there. And then they also have reticulated and Oh my goodness, my brain has stopped. It's this weather. It's because the sunshine went away. Reticulated and Rothschilds, that's the other one, but the reticulated and the Rothschild is a very, very small number. So what you're seeing when Scott and Taylor are out and about is the Maasai giraffe, and they have more of a maple leaf pattern on their skin, whereas for us we have more of what you saw there, which is the sort of squares, beautiful, beautiful squares. Andy, you're wondering what age do giraffe live to be? They can be between 18 and about 22, roundabouts in there. So let's just say 20 for argument's sake in the wild. But again, for this old man here, I would push him up around 16-ish as a guesstimate. Some species, some individuals, I should say, live long and healthy and fruitful lives, and some become food for other animals. But in general, yeah, you can expect, if you are not predated upon or do not succumb to any diseases, let's say about 18 to 20 years, pushing up to about 22. Ooh, they can pick their own nose, as you can see. I had a guest once, a little 7-year-old boy, and we saw amazing things over his 4-day stay. He came with his parents, and we saw lions killing, and we saw leopards on kills, and we saw all sorts of crazy predator action. But we had a female giraffe right next to the car sneeze, a booger come out, and then have her stick her tongue up her nose, and that was his favorite part of the entire game drive. And this was probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I still have not forgotten him, and the fact that giraffe sneezing and being able to use its tongue to clean off its face and its nose was his favorite part. And even now, every time I see a giraffe with its nose like that, I giggle a little bit and think of him. All right, so our staring contest is continuing. I think what I would like to do, Sens, is I just want to focus in on that oxpecker a bit more. Curse, go ahead. I'm listening. Lauren, you're wondering about lions attacking a giraffe. Is that correct? Okay, so yes, lions will attack giraffe. I've watched 2 male lions take down a full-grown giraffe. I've watched 2 female lions take down a full-grown giraffe. I've watched a pride of 10 take down a full-grown giraffe. I've watched small and medium-sized giraffe also be taken out. So yes, definitely. But remember, with predators have species that they are more apt to predate upon than other species. So it's very similar to humans. For instance, my family, we're just going to have a vehicle go behind the giraffe quickly. It's just busy driving on the cut line. We'll zoom. Thank you. And there we can see our oxpecker nicely again. So it's very similar to humans. My family is originally from Italy, and so a lot of the food that I ate growing up and that I still very much enjoy revolves around pasta. Not that I can't eat anything else and or cook anything else, but my skills and my taste buds revolve around that particular dish. It's the same for a predator. So for instance, the sticks that we were looking for this morning is a large pride, and then also like the Inkahumas, for instance, who really, really love buffalo. That's going to be one of their main food sources, and they will have outliers, so maybe a full-grown giraffe, maybe it's a full-grown zebra, but it's not necessarily going to be their first thing. It'll be their second or third thing if their first choice and is not available. And a lot of that has to do with their ability to know how to do it. So for instance, I have a very dear friend who's from Britain. He loves beef Wellington. I could not for the life of me know how to start to cook beef Wellington. I have no idea where to go. I know what the ingredients involve, but I could not cook it. He, however, can. So he is specialized in that. I can cook him a nice pasta dish. It's the same with predators. They know how to take down, let's say this giraffe, for instance, was the optimal prey for a particular pride. They know exactly what to do to get this prey down that minimizes risk against themselves, as well as the energy expenditure. They just know the ins and outs of the prey species. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, but it's a really interesting concept to discuss, because a lot of us assume that because a predator eats meat, and the meat would be anything from an impala to a scrub hare to a giraffe, that they must like any of that. But they are quite selective, amazingly. He really has no urge to carry on and do anything else besides stand here and stare at us and ruminate. Back to him and see what he has to say.
I am indeed. We're just covering some ground, seeing what we can find. There's tracks for these lions and leopards all over the place, and so just looking around and just having a little squiz to see what's been actually happening and what's been going on. And it seems as though they came from Treehouse Dam side, went up towards Shadow's Kill, took that, and then went south again. And that's kind of roughly where we are at this stage in terms of. Hold on, John. You good there? There we go. So there's a couple of monkey oranges around, which means that not ideal for a sort of bushwalk cable. It often then gets caught, and you have a situation where Chandra has to stop. But like I say, it's a sort of situation where they've been everywhere, so tracking them is actually quite difficult, because at the end of the day you've got a situation where their tracks are on top of one another and they're kind of moving up and down. But I think the freshest tracks are the ones that go south off our area, and then again for Shadow and Cub everywhere as well. So Rex has been kind of trying to just establish roughly where he thinks they went. At this stage though, it's a bit stumped, to be honest, so we're just walking through the blocks and just seeing what we can get. It's always nice to be off the roads and walking in areas that we don't really see too much from the vehicles itself. It's been a while since we've done a lot of walks, and so nice to be exploring again and checking things out. But what we actually have come across is over here. Now this probably in all likelihood is somebody regurgitating material, so it's probably vomit of either a hyena or one of the cats. But what you can see very clearly is that you've got quite a large hoof that is there, and then you've got a lot of bone structures that have been broken down. So in terms of the size of these kind of things, I would imagine that this must be from either a lion or a hyena. They would be the only two that would really be able to consume bones of the size and break them down. What amazes me though is how sharp these bones are. If you have a look at this, now I don't want to touch it because often these things are covered in bacteria, but you look at how sharp that point is. The fact that they can get that down and back up again without cutting their throats and choking on it is quite amazing. And if you think about some of the things we swallow, we battle to get them down, I mean that would be very difficult to pass. Once again though, we also have these carcass beetles. They are here again, so they're also moving around. This is just a husk of one, so it's probably quite old. They've obviously already mated these two, laid their larvae inside here when this was still a lot fresher. There's actually one that's still alive, is over here, and there's another one. So quite a few of them again. It's amazing actually how many of them have been around this year. Very cool to see though. But this is old. I think this is probably from a time long gone. I remember actually following lion tracks through here fairly recently, so I wonder if it's not from when that happened. I remember that we had lions that had come off a kill. I just can't remember what they were eating and which lions it was. I think it was the Nkuhuma Pride, I can't remember, but they did come from this direction and they had eaten, so that's probably what that's from. In terms of what that hoof is, the hoof is difficult to say, but it looks to me like it could be a wildebeest or maybe a kudu or something like that. It's not a massive hoof of a buffalo, but one of those is probably roughly what it is, I would imagine. Right, now we are going to head back towards the road. There has been some tracks for ellies and audio for them, so maybe we'll get lucky and we'll be able to find them. They hopefully wouldn't be too far from where we are. We are kind of going down towards Treehouse Dam, and elephants at the end of the day would be individuals that might go for water at this time of the day. It's gotten quite cloudy now. It's no longer the same as what we had earlier where there was a lot of sun, so I don't think it's going to be quite as warm as what I first thought. So the cloud cover, maybe it's not going to drive things to water just yet, but maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky down at Treehouse Dam with some of the ellies. Now, we've been marching through the bush with not much luck when it comes to our big tawny cats and their tracks, but I believe Scotty D, who's been driving around the Mara, has had a little bit more luck than we have and has managed to find some of them in the long grass of East Africa.
I'm guessing you guys could be with us. I didn't hear yet, but I'm going to... Probably only 100 meters away from the two cheetah we were with a bit earlier, and Manu spotted a lion in towards this thicket, and she's led us to her cubs.
Let me reposition slightly and see if I can't find the lioness.
There we go. So I thought we might have been live, so I was presenting to the camera already, which was quite funny. But anyway, I believe there's a bit of bad signal where the lion den is at the moment, so hopefully we'll get that sorted out and be back with Scotty D just now. Like I say, he's had a bit more luck than we have with the tawny critters this morning. But we're just walking along slowly. There's some impalas deep in the distance there. Rex said to me he found tracks of lions going back and forth, and so he thinks that they are, obviously the fresher ones, like I was saying just now, going south. So we'll just carry on for a little bit. Like I said, there were signs of ellies around, so maybe just get lucky. We've obviously got a bit of distance to cover to get towards Treehouse Dam. We are heading in that direction, but there's still a bit of a way to go, so I'm going to try and get that side and see, maybe if we get lucky. I'm not 100% sure. It's amazing actually how well animals blend in. I was just sitting here looking now, and really to make out the impalas in the distance is very difficult. They all the way down on the fire break, down, far down the road, and it is really tough to see them with the naked eye. You can only just see this kind of movement going across, and so you can't discern whether it's a lion or an impala. It's amazing actually how they kind of all look very similar, and you'd think that bright coloration, particularly now in the summer months when we've got a lot of greenery, would be quite difficult to, quite easy to see, but it's actually very difficult. These neutral tones that a lot of these animals have are absolutely amazing and perfect for camouflage in these areas. You find that even though they are like a russet red, or the zebras, for example, that are white and black, they really do blend incredibly nicely. Now, I have been trying to keep my eye out for flowers as we've been going, because often when you get a bit of rain the next few days, you start to get a few flowers popping out here and there. So I've been looking for some roadside pimpernel, some African violets, these kind of things that would typically be sort of plants we would expect to come out at this time of the year, and particularly in areas that we're in. The firebreak area is a great place for violets and for roadside pimpernel, so you should see them here. So we'll try and have a little look around and see maybe if we can get lucky with some of those plants. I've also been seeing that the Waltherias have started to come and pop out again, and hopefully they're going to start flowering. Now, last year, for those of you that weren't with us last year, the Waltherias is this plant that just seemed to be the absolute kind of the most amazing plant for insect life. We had so many interesting little insects on these Waltherias. They were a hive of activity. It was the first place we used to go and check. We used to have caterpillars and assassin beetles and all kinds of insects on them, and so it's going to be interesting if this year is going to be the same. You often find in every year insect life is quite variable. So we know in terms of mammals there's rough patterns that we'll see during those times. So we know that, in when we get our marula season, we're going to get an influx of elephants and so on. But with insects, it seems as though every year is slightly different, and it's always depending on temperatures and various other situations when it comes to the weather and the amount of rainfall, and that will determine what actually comes out and where it comes out. So it's going to be interesting to see if those Waltherias are once again the sort of active part of our summer experience. Now, I don't know, you're wondering if there are any plants that we could encounter like poison ivy. Well, we do get things like stinging nettle that's out here, which is a nasty little thing to get on you. It obviously, as the name suggests, it hurts and stings, but we will get a lot of toxic plants. So there are plants out here that are very toxic to us. One probably that comes to mind straight off the bat is tamburtis. Now, tamburtis, we see a lot of them here. They have a very milky latex when you pick them, and if you had to consume that, you could potentially die. Now, we'll try and find us a tamburti. We're not in the best place for them now. We're right up on the crest, and that's signified by these marulas and bush willows and terminalias and various other things. But the tamburtis that do grow in the drainage sections, you'll find, like I said, those are highly toxic. There's a number of different plants out here. The lucky bean creeper, if you had to eat any of those lucky beans, which are the little black and red beans that we get out here, they're highly toxic. So there's a number of different sort of plants out here that you could encounter that definitely are poisonous, and that if you ingest them, you're going to feel very sorry for yourself, if not die. So it's something you've got to be a bit careful of. But there's nothing really that you can't, that you just touch and you're going to be very ill. Things like tamburti, yes, it does have that latex, but if you keep the latex out of your eyes and out of your mouth, then you should be absolutely fine, and you shouldn't have an issue at all. You should be able to kind of sort it out and just wash your hands, and you'll be okay. So, in terms of toxic plants, you just got to be a bit careful, and you want to just watch them and make sure that you're not ingesting them. Right, we're going to carry on towards Treehouse Dam, see if we can find these elephants that I was talking about. Hopefully I get lucky with them and they are around the water and having a little drink. And while we do that, let's go back across to Noelle. And well, I'm not sure what she's up to now. I think she's stopped with her lion tracking, but maybe she'll have some luck with one of the spotted cats.
Tristan, I am trying to see if we can pick up any tracks of the Nkuhumas. I do hope you find your elephants. Elephants on foot are always good, as we know. The wind has picked up. The cloud cover has come back. My sun has gone away. I'm a little bit sad about that. Hopefully, there's a little bit of blue sky. Hopefully this afternoon the sun will come back, but we've got some weird weather for November. This is not our normal November weather by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not finding anything with Nkuhumas at the moment, but we did just now get into the area, so it'll probably take me a little bit longer. Something that I do want to mention, we're going to just come up around the corner here, is I want to talk about termite mounds a little bit. And this is a beautiful one to show you. Sense, can you see that crested barbet that's just here at our 3 o'clock? Sorry everybody, I want to see if we can get this crested barbet for you. He's just flown in. There he is. Oh, that guy. Now he's just gone up a little bit too high. There we go. Senzo, your magic. So the sky is a little bit blown out, but I don't know if you can see those beautiful yellows and the reds. He's flown away. Let me find him in the book for you. We can have a little bit of a better look. So the crested barbet is one of the birds that would have nested in our marula tree earlier. We've got the crested barbet here, also a black-collared barbet. The crested barbet's the one that to me sounds like an old telephone, but we also have a bird called a brew, which people call the telephone bird. This one reminds me of the old rotary dial phone that's in my Oma's garage. And then the black-collared barbet does a two-puddly, 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 and it's not just the one that calls, but it's two. It's a male-female. It's what's called allo-duetting. Now you'll notice with the black-collared barbet, you've got the photo with the red and then with the yellow. This yellow is what's called a morph. I have not seen this morph. I've only seen this. This is on my list still to tick. I am very excited to hopefully one day get that morph. Also with there's another bird called a crimson-breasted shrike, which we don't get here, which has a yellow morph, but we'll talk about that another time. He's more of an arid bird. Okay, termite mounds. Without termite mounds, most of what we see and most of what we do out here wouldn't be possible. The amount of nutrients that a termite mound filters through are absolutely epic. But I don't really want to talk about that, about the termite mounds. I want to talk about the size of this termite mound and the age of this termite mound. So termite mounds grow roughly the size of a football, of a soccer ball, every year. So if we can picture a soccer ball in our hands right now, and then we have a look at the size of this termite mound, that's a lot of soccer balls. Okay, and we're not even seeing the full thing. There's still going to be some that's underneath. Now the depth of that termite mound is dependent upon the water table. If the water table goes 2 meters down, so say 6 foot, then the termite mound will go down 6 foot. If the water table goes down 25 meters, which that's double, so let's say, oh no, it's not double, it's 3 foot to a meter, so whoever's good at math can do that. 25 meters down, then the termite mound will go 25 meters down. They need the moisture from that water table. So a termite mound like this is going to be hundreds of years old, if not, Senzo, you think maybe even over 1,000. I mean, that's a big termite mound.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. Senzo's saying, yeah, it's a big one. Something that I find interesting about this, and another way you can help to age them, look, they're constantly growing and they're constantly moving, or not moving, but expanding, because whenever it rains, then the termites have to take the soil out, and they do it particle by particle by particle to build this ginormous, and ginormous is definitely the best word for this, ginormous structure. So there are pots and shards of pots that you can find in these really old termite mounds. So the Tsonga people from this area, also known as Shangaan, but I prefer Tsonga. What's better, Senzo, if I say Tsonga or if I say Shangaan? Shangaan. Why?
Because Shangaan dominated here.
And Tsonga more north and then Mozambique. Okay. So what I'm asking, Senzo, is it better for me to use Shangan or to use Tsonga? And he's saying right here, physically where we are right now, it's better to use Shangan. Tsonga, even though it's the same grouping of people, but it's better to use Tsonga name Mozambique side and then farther north from where we are. Thank you, Senzo. I appreciate that. So they make clay pots, and we talked about it a couple days ago, but after the first big rains, there's very special eggs that hatch inside the termite mounds, and they let off what's known as winged alights. And these are going to be male-female pairs, or the males and females that pair up to eventually form new colonies. So they're very tasty. We were talking with Jeandre about insects I would eat. There's not very many insects that I would eat, but I have eaten the winged alights. They're tasty. They taste like peanut butter a little bit. You fry them up, they're delicious. That's the only insect I'm going to put in my mouth that I know of, except the spiders you swallow while you're sleeping. So they'll take these pots and they fill them with water, and then they dig a little bit into the termite mound, and they leave them there, and then the winged alights fall in, and then they come and they scoop them off, and then it's a huge source of protein during those summer months. So because this happens year after year, or used to happen year after year, I'm not sure how often it happens nowadays, or if it would even happen with a clay pot now. It would probably be with plastic or with tin. You can find, and I've had it on track and sign assessments, you can find these shards sometimes in these old mounds, especially if the mounds have fallen apart a little bit. And then just there you saw a little spider hunting wasp fly away off the top, probably looking for something like a baboon spider, although I have seen them catch grasshoppers and katydids before as well. So Senzo's reminding me to show you just how large this mound is. I should probably take myself there. Thank you, Senz. So here we go. We're going to run up to the termite mound. Senzo, if I fall, it's all your fault. This is the termite. It's huge. It's really absolutely ginormous. And then we've got our spider hunting wasp there again. So, and then probably, look, I'm on the pinnacle, but the width, I would have to lie down like 6 times to reach from one end to the other end, maybe 8 times. Senz, if I fall, are you going to buy me beers? I mean, apple juice. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Cursed, I am plugged back in. Joy, that is a fabulous question. Do termite mounds predate the separation of the continents? So, Joy, the continents separated 180 million years ago from Gondwanaland into what we have now. So, the largest termite mound I've ever seen was guesstimated at just over 2,000 years. So as far as I understand, I don't think that we would have a termite mound that's quite that old. I do think we can possibly talk about the age of termite mounds in relation to movements of people across maybe the African continent. I think that would be a good way to put it. So before Great Zimbabwe was established, or around the time Great Zimbabwe was established, that would be the age of some of the termite mounds. Or possibly the movement of people from Eastern Africa coming down into Southern Africa. That would be another good example. Another example would be a lot of these termite mounds were started when San Bushmen were still moving in their historical areas throughout Botswana. The Kalahari and the Khoisan would have been, the Khoikhoi would have been, not the Khoikhoi, what am I thinking of? On the coast there, Senzo. Why is this name escaping me? I have it at the tip of my tongue. Oh, you're testing my cultural historical knowledge at the moment. There's people that did specific sort of fisheries, and you can find these amazing huge middens of clam shells and things like that on the coast. I'm pretty sure it's Khoikhoi. I'm going to have to read again. My brain has stopped functioning. But yes, they're very, very old. Not as old as the continent splitting up, but old. Oh, Senza, that's gonna bother me. You guys have given me a lot of reading for today to get my brain engaged properly. Alright, Tristan's still on walkabout. Let's go see what he has to say. Let's ask Tristan some historical questions, shall we?
Well, we are slowly going down towards Treehouse Dam at the moment. So Treehouse Dam is not far from us. It's just down this little dip. There are tracks for Shadow and Cub coming this way. Now, these could be tracks from a few days ago when they were kind of coming for water or going from this kill. We know that at the end of the day, Noel had Shadow's Cub around Treehouse Dam. And so it's a situation where very well could be from that, but there are tracks going that way. Apparently there's elephants somewhere around Philemon's Dip that were found that are also heading roughly in this general direction, so it's going to be interesting to see what's actually at the dam itself. I know Noel was here first thing this morning, and so, well, you never know, maybe a situation where we find, imagine that would be nice, Shadow and Cub and elephants at the dam. I think that's a wonderful way to end our morning, would be absolutely perfect. But either way, it's been so delightful just strolling through the bush. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed being kind of back in bushwalk mode and just sort of meandering my way through. It's often a situation where we kind of don't spend that much time on foot when we're on the vehicles, and so, nice to be out here. Now, Rez, you're wondering if animals will alarm call when we're on foot. So it depends on the animal. I mean, sometimes you'll get a little snort from an impala or a bark from a nyala or a kudu if potentially there's something else that's been around. So sometimes if they're on edge and you've had a situation where, let's say, a lion or a leopard has walked through that particular section, then you'll get a situation where that does happen. But generally, no, the animals just see us, they look at us, and then they start trotting off and going in a different direction. But what I want to show you, I don't know if it's going to be easily visible, but there's actually a nest up here of another bird. So this is a weaver's nest that we've got in this jackalberry that's hanging down. Now, this particular nest is not overwatered. Can you see it at the moment, Chandra? So low down on the right side, low down, just dangling in the breeze. Chandra is battling to see it. So the right side of the tree, you got it, okay. So there's a nest for a weaver there that is not complete though. It's a nest that has been unfortunately disregarded. It's also being blown around at a rate of knots, so I do apologize, Andre, for you trying to get that on camera, but anyway, we're doing it. Now, which weaver this is debatable. Because the nest is not complete, it's not easy to identify what weaver it would be, because a lot of the weavers, you can identify them just by their nest shape, particularly the tunnel that goes into the nest. Some have very long tunnels, some have very short tunnels, but the location of this particular nest and the way that it's constructed would indicate probably one of the smaller weavers. So you'd look at either something like a lesser mast weaver or something like your southern mast weaver. Those are the two that I would potentially call at this stage. Generally, though, both of those also are in groups together, and this is the only nest that I see here. So it's possible that it could have been a red-headed weaver. There are a few red-headed weavers around at the moment, and so it might have been that. But red-headed weavers tend to be much higher in trees, and I tend to find that they like things like power lines, trees that don't have as much foliage as this, and like I say, tend to be a little bit higher than what we see there. But of course, each bird is different, and it is possible that it is a red-headed weaver nest that was started and then abandoned a little bit of the way through. So nice to see, though. I haven't actually noticed that nest, and this is an area that I've always thought I'll find a leopard. And as to this day, I still haven't found one. Because the dam is not far, it's just up ahead there. I always think this jackalberry with this termite mound would be the perfect place for a leopard to spend an afternoon. Especially a hot afternoon, you would see a situation where you would think that a leopard would really want to come and sit underneath that jackalberry. But as yet, nothing. And I've seen a few leopards walk past it and just kind of stroll on. But I know one day I will find a leopard there. It's just a matter of time. Maybe Shadow or the Cub or Tingana, if he ever returns to the side of the world. I haven't seen his tracks at Treehouse Dam for quite some time now. And so I wonder if he's too busy with other things at the moment. It seems as though he's got his hands full, old Tingana. There's lots going on around him, lots of male leopards that are all kind of zoning in on his territory and then really trying to, probably at some point they will start to try and oust him. So it's got a lot of work to do and a lot of ground to cover and a lot of scent marking to do. The other thing is that this particular area at the moment doesn't actually have a female that's in heat. So Shadow, in terms of, she's got her cub, and so she's the only female hanging around this area, so it's not really attracting Tingana into this section. He's got a lot more to worry about in the form of Kuchava, who he's been mating with, and obviously Tandi now with new cubs. He's going to have to try and solidify that area and make sure that she's safe and that other males are not going in and hurting his offspring. So he's going to be busy with that. Who knows what's happening in the west at the moment? That just seems to be a smorgasbord of male leopards that are kind of all over each other at the moment, with Djuma going into that area. There's also obviously Anderson, Tingana, Mvula. So it's a lot of different male leopards all kind of getting into one section. Right, nothing at Treehouse Dam so far that I can see. I'm going to try and just have a little look for our blacksmith lapwing chicks, because they're also somewhere in this general vicinity, and so it will continue on our morning of nests and bird eggs. And while we do that, let's go back to Noelle and see what she's up on hysteric mode.
Alright, we found another termite mound, but we're not going to talk about that termite mound. I actually want to talk about this very large knob thorn that's fallen over. It's sort of lived its life, quite a large knobthorn tree, and the fact that as it's lying down here like this and hollowing out, it's creating quite a little niche slash ecosystem slash habitat. It really depends on your thoughts on that. Look, niche, habitat, and ecosystem all have very specific definitions, but in a lot of places across the world they are interchangeable. So we are going to stick with habitat for the moment, and it's more of a vertical habitat a horizontal habitat now, as opposed to what it was with a vertical habitat earlier. And it's going to be now a home for lizards. It's going to be a home for squirrels. There's possibly snakes that have found a home in there. There's going to be a lot of insects that are living inside of this dead tree. You might even find some birds still nesting in some of the hollow cavities, although it is pretty close to the ground, but it's definitely a possibility. And then you can see that there's a lot of grass that's growing up in and around. There's a beautiful view of the bark there. You can see the grass there. And so that's going to create shelter for things like mice and for scrub hares and cane rats and any other sort of rodent type species that might need it. So yes, this is just a fallen over tree, but in and of itself, it's an extremely vital part of our ecosystem here. Now, as this starts to degrade and starts to be broken down, we talked a little bit about detrivores yesterday. So detrivore is going to be something like a crab, or it's going to be something like a cockroach or an earthworm, fungus, bacteria. They're breaking it all down, and all of those nutrients are going back into the soil, and it's creating these food webs. So we talk a lot, especially if we have any students that are watching us today, if you've taken any biology classes or possibly any earth sciences classes, you'll talk a lot about trophic pyramid. So on the bottom you have what's known as the abiotic layer, and the abiotic layer is, sort of the soil and everything, and then you come up and you get the soil is growing the grass, so then you get the herbivores, and then you get the predators that eat the herbivores, etc., etc. So it's a pyramid. But the problem with a pyramid is that it's saying that this level feeds this level, which feeds this level, which feeds this level, and it forgets that sometimes you'll get a species that can eat vegetation, but it can also possibly eat some meat. A bear would be an example of that. Or you're possibly going to get a predator that will eat other predators, but will also eat herbivores. So there's a lot of mixing, and that the trophic pyramid doesn't do a good job doing that. So we have what's called a food web. So this would be the web. Yeah. So instead of having things link linearly like this, they link in all the different possibilities that they possibly can. And that's an important concept to remember, because we as humans sometimes remove ourselves. We go to the grocery store. I would love to have a herb garden or a vegetable garden, but we have Kudu and Nyala who would come in and eat our herb garden, our vegetable garden. But in general, we've removed ourselves sort of as much as possible with our technology and just our lifestyles in general away from this food web. We are still part of it, but it is something that we have to remember. So yes, we talk about the lions and we talk about the leopards, but it is also the termites. It's this dead knobthorn tree. It's the grass that's under there. It's the little insect that we tried to show you earlier. It's the type of soil that we have here because of the Drakensberg Mountains that we looked at a few nights ago. So that's sort of the general direction that over the next couple of days I would kind of like to get a little bit deeper into. So I'm just going to start feeding you through more and more. Oh, you've got a skink. Thanks, Senzo. Little striped skink. So that's his home. He eats insects. He eats winged owlites like we spoke about earlier. He'll eat little sausage flies, which are also known as driver ants. He'll eat termites, regular termites. He'll eat ants. I've seen him catch dung beetles before. Pretty much any sort of insect that he can get his hands on. And then his home will be inside these different layers of bark. Ooh, we have feed back in the Mara, which is fabulous, and Scott has cheetah for us. So we're going to head up to Scott and see what he can show us with his 2 fabulous cheetah in his ecosystem up in East Africa.
So we are still sitting here patiently with Miyali and her young boy. I've got a feeling they could get up at some point soon. She sat up a little bit earlier and had a scan around, and she's still looking out in the direction of their most likely prey options, some Thompson's gazelle with quite a few babies. They're a few hundred meters away, and what it seems like, both her and her son have sat up for us, and it looks like he's better fed than her, which isn't a huge surprise. There's a whole bunch of game also dotted around this plain. What a scene. And what could well have happened is she could have made the kill, and he's a little bit bigger than her, so he may have outcompeted her and fed on more than she did. So even though I think they've had a meal fairly recently, I don't think she is as full-bellied as him. So there's a chance that they'll get up a little bit later. A lot of the cheetah do a lot of their hunting during the midday hours. Malika seems to be a fan of the midday hunt. So maybe this lady is the same. It's the first time I've ever spent time with the 2 of them. So I've got no prior history with them. Hi, Becca. You'd like to know which animals have got the best eyesight. Well, in terms of distance, I would say your predatory birds, vultures, and eagles probably have the best eyesight in terms of distance. But in terms of nocturnal viewing, the predators are going to have great vision. And I guess a few of the animals like bush babies, a few specifically nocturnal beasts, will be able to see well after dark. So ordinarily the cats, and then a few of the other interesting creatures like bush babies, which are nocturnal primates. Some of the nocturnal birds like owls will have incredible vision. So I guess there's kind of different genres, who can see the furthest and who can see the best in the dark. Now we've got a report of another female, or at least weren't sure if it was a female or not, but another cheetah. Not too sure how far exactly from this area, but that individual also successfully made a kill. So 2 cheetah this morning have succeeded in kills. The Musketeer Coalition, we still haven't heard any news on them. I'm sure they'll be found at some point, so we'll just keep asking the guides that stop by and join this sighting with us. They may be a good prospect for later on this afternoon. And who knows, I've been trying to phone some of my sources for any updates on Malika as well. So we're going to keep our options open so as to choose the best possible cheetah with which to sit, in the hope that they'll take us on a little bit of a joyride with them. Well, I'm quite jealous and envious that I'm not joining all of you guys to go and join Tristan on an Easter egg hunt.
We are an Easter egg hunt, but Scotty, I'm pretty sure you would not want to eat this particular egg, being that it's been baking in the sun for about the last 4 weeks, unprotected, and it is now broken open, and I'm pretty sure that is about as rotten could be. It's not going to be a very pleasant egg, and so you wouldn't want to be consuming it. Now, this is an egg that we've had at Treehouse Dam for, like I say, about 4 weeks or 3 weeks since I first saw it, and it was sitting very much out in the open, and I came up here with Jandre, and I said to him, I wonder if the egg is still around. We came, and there was no sign of it, and it's now been dragged off in underneath there, and it looks as though it's been broken, which means that something has pecked at it. I don't know what it is. It looks maybe like a bird had a go at it. You never know. Maybe something like an African harrier hawk, or one of those kind of birds that will go after eggs. They will do that. They kind of use that sharp piercing beak, and they break it open, and then they try and drink the yolk. But whatever did it has put it underneath the tree like this, and has then tried to consume it and probably realized that this is not something it wants to consume at all, because I'm pretty sure that that thing is very, very, very rotten. And luckily it doesn't actually smell too much. It's a situation where it's fairly pleasant. In terms of its smell, it's actually not really pungent. I thought it would have a really bad rotten egg smell for quite some time. Egg it is. Debatable. I would go Egyptian goose. That was what I would think it is. It's very similar to the egg that's at Gowrie Dam at the moment. They both look like Egyptian goose eggs. Why it's on the ground, that's also unsure. Most Egyptian geese will nest in trees. They will repurpose things like buffalo weaver nests or hammerkop nests or eagle nests, and they'll take those over and lay their eggs there. So it's a bit of a different situation completely. Now, you might hear above and overhead that there are two blacksmith lapwings that are very unimpressed with myself and Jean-Andre right now. So they're flying about and they're making quite a bit of noise. And the reason why they're making noise is that they've got two chicks here. We know that Noel has seen them a few times. I've also seen them. They're kind of somewhere around the dam. And these adults are getting quite upset by the fact that we've approached towards the water. And it's a very different reaction from these guys than what we saw from the Senegal lapwings this morning when we were close to the eggs. These guys are shouting at us, making a lot of noise. And every time we kind of move, their sort of noise sort of crescendos into this violent bubbling sound. And I think the more we walk off, probably the better. So that's our lapwings. I can't find the little chicks though. I don't know where they are. They're probably camouflaging. Their instinct, if there's a disturbance and the adults start making a noise, is just to sit down wherever they are, and their down feathers are all very, very well camouflaged for them to blend in. So I don't think we'll spot them unless we came with a vehicle and the adults were still there and they were running around with the adults themselves. Oh no, Taylor McCurdy. So Taylor McCurdy in the Mara, who's evidently a bit bored, wants to know, do the lapwings remind me of Ali when I've done something naughty and I'm in trouble? No, they don't. They remind me of Taylor and Ali when we have gone out in the evenings in various places and the two of them get incredibly loud and go crazy and go dance all over the place and move around all over this place and make quite a lot of fuss. So that's what it reminds me of, is the two of them together, particularly when they are making a noise like these lapwings were and dive bombing me from above. So that would be about the sum total of what I think about this. But in talking about Taylor McCurdy, it sounds like she's back at work now and decided that she's going to join us again and help us out. And so let's go back to Miss McCurdy and see what she's got to say for herself and whether she thinks she's a lapwing or not.
We are indeed. We've got, of course, this big herd of zebra, and I'm not sure what's going on. I'm actually just trying to look. They're very nervous. Normally when they come down to the water's edge, they're typically quite nervous, even when it's to drink, because there's lots of things that could be moving about. But there's lots of zebra alarming. Look at them, they're charging out from the left. I don't know if there's, well, they were charging, typical. Well, there's a couple still running, but they were racing through that thicket. I wonder if there aren't any lions around, maybe hiding about, waiting to pounce upon a zebra snack. Or these ones are just running because they've heard the others, this group that's closest to us, sort of bleating away and have responded. But everybody is very agitated this morning. They're not going down to the water just yet. They've got a very, very far way to sort of get down to the water's edge. Now turning and actually coming towards... They're going a complete opposite way now. And this big group is coming towards us. What's going on here? It's also very windy. You may be able to hear it howling. It's all very suspicious. I think that's what's just sort of making these zebras slightly more anxious as well, is the fact that the wind is howling and they wouldn't be able to smell or hear very well. Lucy, I'm wondering if a zebra is faster than a horse. I think you're going to have to go down to what type of breed of horse. Thoroughbreds. I think a thoroughbred is much quicker than a zebra. However, a boerpad versus a zebra, you might find that they're about the same speed. So I think it really does depend on what type of breed of horse it is. Thoroughbreds are, of course, bred for running. And so, well, quarter horses are pretty athletic too. Warm bloods, not so much for running the races, but jumping over jumps and doing dressage and show jumping. Oh, you can just go on and on and on and on and on about horses and different types of breeds. But I would say that a zebra is pretty quick though as well. So it's a hard one. I'm not sure if they give a list. Oh, listen. Very distressed. They're all running back into the herd. They must be a part of this herd. Now, Snoopy Bobby, you're wondering if there's ever been a white zebra, one that's born without stripes. Not that I've ever seen. Maybe. Maybe there's been a recorded one. Maybe what about a leucistic zebra, which wouldn't have completely... Well, it wouldn't be completely white, but it would have very, very faded stripes. That would definitely be a possibility. I haven't seen it, though. And I reckon if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in Kenya or Tanzania. One of these wonderful areas. One of those. It's definitely a stallion. There's quite a few stallions here. Just having a quick look and see at the dynamics of the herd. There's a combination of stallions and mares. I wonder if they're getting ready to head back to cross into the reserve, because we're right on the Mara River now. Well, they're moving in the opposite direction, unfortunately. They're moving back towards the escarpment. But they could just mill around and go up and down for most of the morning, and then eventually cross a little bit later. So perhaps this is a good spot to come back to this afternoon. Sometimes we even get to see the elephants cross here. It's actually a very popular elephant crossing spot. And if it's a nice warm day, maybe we'll even get them going for a bit of a dip. Tensions are high, though, at the moment within the zebra. Even down here, if you look, there's quite a bit of dust that's been kicked up. There were a couple of zebra that are having a bit of a quarrel. And somebody got a kick, or at least some sand to the face. Those look like stallions. Well, at least the one walking away is definitely a big boy. No, that might be a mare in the middle. So I wonder if it's just small groups all coming together to cross the river. But now, as everything's starting to settle down, obviously the stallions are getting a bit protective over their specific groups. And some crown cranes. It's a lovely scene. A bit dry here on the river's edge. Let's go and investigate and see what's in the Mara River. I'm not... I'm not sure if I'm live anymore. Hang on, I can hear something. Okay. Well, I think I heard something from Curse. We're going to just quickly have a little look around the Mara River and see if there maybe are lions laying about. I'm going to send you back across to South Africa now, where Noel is just on a bit of a bumble.
I am bumbling, seeing if we can pick up any fresh tracks or signs of anything that we feel like viewing, but then also just having, it's a very still, very calm morning. It's actually started to heat up a little bit. The cloud cover is still there, but the sun is trying its best to break through. I just want to head down towards Twin Dams and just have a look and see what's potting. Oh, we've got a nice bachelor herd of impala up here. Let's have a look at them while we're bumbling about. I'm just going to position quickly. Let me go more. Hello, boys. Did you manage to see there 1, 2, 3, and they all leaped, they all ran in basically the same way. They all leapt in the same way. And in general copied each other's behavior. It's called allolumetic behavior. I don't know if anyone's heard of lemmings, but lemmings following each other sort of off a cliff. That allolumetic behavior for species like impala and wildebeest is very important, because if one does it, then the other will do it, and the others are doing it because the first one that did it survived, and so the copycat behavior is all in the mode of survival. So I believe, Kirst, you're saying there's a crossing that's happening. Must I head over quickly? Yes. So there's a crossing that's happening, which is amazing to watch. So let's head over there and give you that spectacular sight to see.
Hello, everybody. Now look what we've got here. You can see a couple of zebra going down. They're walking right towards the crocodiles. The crocodiles are backing up, though. I don't know if these zebra are going in for a drink or if they're actually going to cross, but you can see there's crocs there. There are some massive crocodiles. Really, really big ones in excess of 4 meters. Let's see what goes on. There's also hippos splashing about. No, now they're going back up the bank again. They're just walking on the edge of the Mara River and then climbing back up the other side. It was the most bizarre thing. Everybody was heading in the opposite direction. I think these zebra are going to cross today. They're winding themselves up. They've all run away now, so they're all gone in the opposite direction. But they just came charging towards you and ran down the bank. It happened so quickly. And now they're gone again. Bizarre, but the crocodiles are waiting for them. Look at this. Look at that. That is like the Loch Ness monster of crocodiles right there. That is huge. That tail when it comes out of the water. Now, that is a big croc and it's fighting quite a strong current. Every now and then you'll see how it uses its tail as a huge paddle and it comes out of the water, and then you really get an idea of how big it is. But it's about 4 meters, at least. Sure, that would swallow a zebra whole. And there's many of them. There are so many. I'm actually going to try and count the crocs that I can see just from my spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can just count 9 crocodiles, and I can't imagine the ones that I haven't even seen yet. And not small either. 1 or 2 little ones that are probably under 2 meters. The rest are all much bigger than that. So cool. And some hippos also playing. It's all happening down at the river. Porpoising, goodness gracious, causing waves. This is very exciting. Churning up the brown murky waters. Well, the already murky waters of the Mara River. Those must be youngsters having a bit of a battle. A bit of Monday fun day. It's not normally that. I've never heard somebody say Monday fun day before, but maybe we need to start. It's normally Sunday fun day, isn't it? I don't know. I think the animals in the Mara like alliteration. And they behave accordingly. Oh, I'm so excited, but now the zebra are really moving away. They've disappeared completely out of view. That is a humongous crocodile. Hang on, I have to have another look at it again. I just want to reverse quickly so I can get a better view. We're going to actually change. We're going to go around again because look how huge this thing is. Oh, hello, giraffe. Would you like to cross with the crocodiles? No? The giraffe does not want to cross with the crocodile. I don't know why I did that accent either. What's wrong with me today? Where's that massive crocodile? There it is. Oh, there's more floating. There's more floating down. Oh, goodness. Sometimes I just cannot help myself. As Craig would do. Craig does these dramatic whistles now for, well, I suppose, for emphasis. It works quite well. So anytime anything happens in camp, it doesn't matter what it is. Someone could drop a fork. The salt could knock over on the table. The wind could blow a tent down, and Craig will stand there and go. And I feel like that's one of those moments right now. But there's lots of animals. Lots and lots. There's big groups of giraffe on the other side of the river, just up ahead. Obviously, possibly communicating with our giraffe that's to the other side, who we'll show you just now, because it actually makes for a beautiful picture. You're all going to be very excited about the next shot that we've got for you. And before he disappears, no giraffe! How rude. How absolutely rude. It was so nice. He was standing, he's gone now. He was standing with the big palm trees. That's so disappointing. Sometimes these animals really make me angry. I mean, that was amazing. Hang on, I'm going to line the shot up for you again because it's just too beautiful. You stay there, giraffe. I will go back around. Hopefully he doesn't move, and then I think I can get it for you again. Are you ready? But you're going to have to be quick because this giraffe can understand English and he doesn't like to cooperate. Ta-da! How amazing. Look at that. It's like a giraffe on the beaches of Hawaii. No, it's not. But I just think that's quite pretty. That's what it reminds me of every time I see the beautiful big palm trees. Pretty cool. Kirst, what do you think? Do you like that? You know what? I'm going to pull an illegal maneuver right now. I am also going to take a picture. I'm sorry. Not sorry. It's just too amazing to pass. I might take one more in case that one was blurry, because, you know, my photos are not normally sharp, according to Tristan. Oh, that is stunning. Now, a great question from Carol, seeing as though we're staring at this giraffe all by himself. You're wondering, how often is it that giraffe interacts with other giraffe? Very often, in fact. Those two different groups of giraffe. Well, this giraffe was communicating with a giraffe across the river. Even though we didn't hear anything, it's they'll use body language. It probably got some form of communication that we don't even understand yet. But their main way is communicating. And he keeps staring. That's what he's doing right now. You can see he's looking back at that herd to see what's going on. They're not particularly social creatures. They come and go and passing, you know. I suppose they would shake hands, maybe high five, wave, ask how you're doing, and then I reckon that's as deep as the conversation goes when giraffe are in passing. You know, they don't ask how the kids are, or, you know, if Bethany's matriculated just yet, or any of these different types of things. It's just a very sort of in passing, brief, hello, that's great. Maybe male will test a female to see if she's coming into estrus, you know, get some intel when he needs to come back, that type of thing. But very casual. I think that's lovely. Okay. Thank you very much, giraffe. That was beautiful. Oh, did you like being called beautiful? As I said, beautiful. He very quickly turned his head straight towards us. That's amazing. Okay, bye. Have a nice day by the pool. Very cool. Now, I think we're going to start, well, we'll follow the river road home. I think that's going to be the plan this morning. And now there are no animals whatsoever. It was like there was nothing here just a few minutes ago. Can't believe how these animals move around so quickly. Oh no, we're going to see the zebra. I think they're going to cause havoc in the triangle today. I'm going to have to phone the zebra police and get them to come and have a look and see what's going on here, because I have absolutely no idea why they're acting so rowdy at the moment. Well, apparently zebra do move quite quickly, because I can't keep up with them. Let's go to Scott, who might also have some difficulty keeping up with his cat.
Well, for now, we appear to be okay. The cheetahs are moving slowly, and we have got onto the opposite side of their prey that I'm guessing they are heading towards to try and seek out some young Thompson's gazelle. This is a female cheetah with her son. I'm not sure how old she is, but she's got some years of experience on her, and she will know full well that there are going to be some easy opportunities if they work their way through this herd of Thompson's gazelle, because they do all have lots of babies at the moment. There is, however, a snitch. This male Thompson's gazelle has run towards them and has now attracted the attention of the rest of the herd towards these cheetahs. So the cheetahs certainly aren't going to have the elements of surprise, but even still, I think they may well continue to make their way through this area. They've been sleeping the whole morning. We caught up with them at about 7 o'clock, I would say. Left them for a while, found another cheetah, and came back to them, and they've just got up. And it seems to be a bit of a trend with the cheetah that I'm picking up, is that they like to sleep in and do a lot more of their hunting during the midday hours. Now, it's not just some Thompson's gazelle that are in the area. There's a whole bunch of other game: wildebeest, zebra, topi, and it appears like for now the cheetah seems to have changed direction and be not heading towards these Thompson's gazelle, but rather heading to investigate these herds here. Now, it's going to be tricky for her to pluck even a young wildebeest, zebra, and or topi from a herd like this, because all of those animals have the ability to chase cheetah off their youngsters if the cheetah do manage to bring one down. I think we need to move ourselves a little bit closer though, now that she's changed angles. Woohoo! But he may have a proper go for things. Let's just stop here and watch this unfold. He's a youngster, so playful and possibly silly and stupid at times, and I guess the latter is being displayed now. What were you thinking? What was that? You're not gonna get a meal acting like that. Anyway, I guess at least you're trying. Okay, copy that. Thanks, Alice. I'm just chatting with Alice about whether we should invite some people into the scene on Facebook, and I think we should, even though it doesn't look like they're probably going to get successful. Who knows? Anything could happen. So yes, let's welcome on some more people. Because if nothing else, we are going to get some interesting scenes here. Here he goes again. Looking for any weaknesses. We're going to have a good two-shot of some zebra. Oh no, they've changed direction. And now Mom's getting involved. Who she spotted? Welcome everyone on Facebook. You couldn't have come at a better time. We've got a mother cheetah. She's running into this herd of topi, wildebeest, and zebra. And who knows, maybe she's spotted a youngster that she thinks she can single out. It seems like she may have. Look at these shots. Fascinating. Well done, Manu. Who are you going after? What have you found? It's a young topi. She's got it. Can you believe it? Now, we do need to be ready for anything to happen here because the adults are coming back from the right, Manu. Here come the adults coming back from the right. They've stopped. Let's stay on her because maybe even these zebra will have a go at her. Can you believe it? Let's get us a bit closer. I need to stop quickly. The topi's coming in. The topi's managed to chase the cheetah away and the youngster's free for now, but go back to the youngster. The other cheetah's going for the youngster. Straight ahead of us, 12 o'clock. Oh no, the topi's down again. But there's more coming. There's more topi coming in. Let me race forward because it's out of view. What an incredible sighting. So much action. It's difficult to know where to put the camera. I'll stop here and let Manu take over. Now, I'm not sure if this is the mother or the young boy that's managed to get back onto this young topi, but what a valiant attempt by the topi's mother to chase off the adult female cheetah. I can't even see where she's gone. She's been chased off into the distance. And we were literally wondering whether we should invite all of you into, or on Facebook, into this sighting, because we weren't convinced that these cheetah were going to take anything too seriously. They had just woken up from a long morning snooze. They've been sleeping for about 3 or 4 hours this morning, and within minutes of getting up, they have succeeded. And they made it look easy, which is fascinating. Here comes the mother topi on the left. Oh, okay. Well, sadly, nobody got to join us on Facebook. For everyone who was with us from the start, I'm glad you tuned in, and what an incredible scene this is. I think we can get a little bit closer now that things seem to have all calmed down to a panic. Sure. How incredible were those scenes, Manu? Good work on the camera. That was ridiculous. Whew. Absolutely breathtaking scenes with that cheetah running in and amongst the zebra. I wonder where the other cheetah's gone. It's completely disappeared out of view. And this is in fact the young boy, and he's doing a good job dispatching this poor young topi. Good signs that his mother's been training him well. She did a good job allowing the female topi to chase her off like a decoy, and her son did a great job in finishing off what she had started. I need to regain my composure after all that excitement. You know it's a good sighting when you don't know which way to point the camera, and this morning and what we've just experienced was an incredible example of just that. All of the bystanders are looking on. You wonder what they are thinking. I'm very, very surprised that the female cheetah hasn't come back onto the scene yet, but I'm sure she will at some point. Sadly, we did miss that initial, that was the one thing we missed, was that female topi coming in and chasing off the cheetah. That would have been great to see. But like I said, there was just so much going on. We may have even seen it, and in all the excitement, I can't even actually remember what exactly happened. Which is often the case when we look back on exciting moments like this. We often hear things and realize things that we didn't realize we had said or noticed or witnessed when it actually happened. Oh, he's looking around nervously. I think he too is surprised that Mom hasn't come back onto the scene just yet. Maybe she's having a breather somewhere. Maybe she's confident that he's done what he's needed to do and she's catching her breath. Let me get my binoculars and have a quick scan, try and work out where she could be. Yeah, I can see a whole bunch of touristas off to our left, and they are looking down to their left. So I think she's just kind of below where we can see. I'm standing up on my chair now to try and get a possible view of her. But I can't see her. I wonder what she's up to. I'm almost tempted to race off and have a quick look there. It seems like everything is kind of stabilized here with him, and he has, I think, killed it. Let's just make sure he has done a good job there. Yeah. I can't be 100% certain, but it does look like he's done a good job dispatching it. Let's go and... Oh, there's Mom there. There we go. The vehicles were just blocking our view of her. Why are you looking in the opposite direction? She might, exactly like Manus just suggested, she may be thinking about hunting again, looking for another option. Now that she knows her boy has got breakfast, she's probably going to think about filling her own belly. Unless, of course, in the chaos and confusion, she lost track of him. Let's see carefully if she's not calling. Because that literally may have happened. She went hurtling off doing her own thing, then got chased by the topi as he came in, so maybe she just doesn't know that he's here. And I think that could be the case. Rice Rocket's making it a bit tricky for Manu to compose a nice shot there. So maybe let's just keep an eye on him now while we know where she is. I'll keep an eye on her with my binoculars for any updates, and it'll be nice to see if he does in fact try and call her. I think that may be what's going to happen. It's just the most bizarre scenario. You would never think her to just be looking out in the opposite direction. Like, have you forgot what just happened back here? Miale? I'm getting the pronunciation I'm battling to get my pronunciation of her name right. Manu keeps correcting me, thankfully. And it apparently means rays, as in rays of sunshine. Maritza, thank you for acknowledging Manu's very, very slick camera work, and you say he's going to get some brownie points today. I couldn't agree more. He gets a gold star right in the middle of his forehead. We've been ridiculously lucky. We've had 4 attempted cheetah hunts in the last 48 hours. We missed one narrowly this morning, so we could have had 5. 2 of which have resulted in kills, 2 of which have just been near misses. But we've been absolutely spoilt rotten by these incredible animals. And I can't believe that this is the last day that I will be spending with them for at least 3 or 4 months. It's unlikely that I'll be spending much time with cheetah down on Djuma, especially seeing as though I'm going to be focusing on the bushwalks. But what a privilege to be able to be out here and share these incredible scenes with you. Tristan's reassuring me that he's got some cheetah lined up for me. Thanks, Tristan. And I also cannot wait for Tristan to get his chance to come and explore the Mara. He is going to be like a kid in a candy store. You guys are a funny bunch. You've made a kill. I guess you don't want to eat it because you're tired. Fair enough, you can catch your breath. Here we go. So he's starting, but she is still looking off in the opposite direction as if nothing ever happened. Maybe she's giving her boy some alone time. Maybe she thinks it's time for him to start getting a sense of what it's going to be like in the coming months when he does have to depart from his mother's comforting care. There's a small hurricane beginning to blow. You'll notice the camera's shaking a little bit, as is the grass all around his head. The whole vehicle's blowing in the wind. What an incredible scene this is, with the beautiful balanites tree, dark hills in the background, and a cheetah with its freshly captured meal. Absolutely beautiful. Alrighty then. Well, the next thing we get to look forward to is how long it takes for the vultures to swoop down onto the scene. We'll be sure to call you back as soon as any do start swooping back, and or if the mom decides to come and join her son for breakfast. But for now, we are sending you back across to Taylor.
What a great morning you've had, Scott. Hey, you really are the cheetah man of Africa. Now, we are slowly making our way home. We're on the river road. See some vehicles stopped up ahead. I'm not sure what they're looking at, but I can see a rather large herd of elephants in the distance. Perhaps they're waiting for them to walk directly in their path. And if that's the case, maybe we'll do exactly the same thing. That could be quite nice. But we just got to head up and around this bend. I think that's what they're looking at, is the elephants. And then we're going to try and race towards the bridge. And hopefully, maybe by some small miracle today, we'll be able to put the African blue flycatcher on the list. Well, that's on the list. We need to check it off. But I don't know if we're going to be that lucky with this horrible windy day. I think everything will be maybe tucked in further in the forest, trying to shelter themselves. Yes, everybody's elephant watching today. How cool. Let me get a nice spot. We're not really going to be able to get them, I think, walk right past us, just because there's other vehicles up ahead. So I'm just going to stop over here, so we can watch them move through the lovely grass. It's not a huge herd. It's a decent sized herd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, there's 11 elephants. Maybe I missed one because there's a couple of really tiny ones just moving through the grass at the moment. Here they all go, quite happily. Just grazing here and there, I think grabbing the odd little shrub. And then there's a little elephant that's being swallowed up by the long grass of the Mara Triangle. Very precious. Sticking right next to Mum. Trying to use this little trunk. What are you smelling? Probably picking all types of scents up at the moment. Joy. You said, why is it called a trunk and not a hose or something like that? I don't know. What about a nose? Trunk nose. I don't know why it is called a trunk and not a hose. That is so funny. I don't know why I find that particularly funny, but it totally is hysterical. I don't know. How did you think of that question? That's fantastic. I think if I'd thought of that up and imagined it in my head, I would just would have started laughing out loud and people would not really realize what I was talking about. So I'm glad I managed to get the question out. That is a really cool question. Does anyone know why an elephant's appendage on its face is called a trunk and not a hose? It basically has the same function, I suppose, doesn't it? Can spray water out. But can a hose suck water up? I suppose it can. But typically they're used to spray, water. It uses it as a device for water to shoot out of. I love it. I love it when we get questions like that. It just amazes me how differently we all think. I would never have thought of that. Very cool. Thank you, Joy. You've made my day today. And beautiful. And there's a bit of blue sky, which is unusual, although I feel like the clouds are going to roll on in by afternoon safari. I think it might be a bit of an overcast day, but that's lovely. And soon you'll see the valley that I go hiking in. Oh, now you can actually see it. That main valley, I have to show you where I go. A little bit to the right. Yes, there, that next green patch. That's right in the rift. Yes, there we go. That's where we go sneaking along the escarpment. How cool is that? So there's a waterfall-ish thing in there, and there's 2 pools, and there's beautiful fig trees. It's amazing. Actually, about halfway up, you can see there's quite a white sort of patch, and that's where the rocks are that we look down on. It's so amazing. So we go quite steep. It's very, very steep. That climb up to the right is an absolute nightmare, and we all complain the entire way up. Firstly, because there's not enough air and we can't breathe, and then your legs are on fire because it is so steep. And we find elephant dung down in there too. Can you believe it? Actually, I'm not shocked by it at all. And a couple of trees that have been pulled over by the ellies, and it's amazing how they can move over such different terrain. I mean, we typically see them out on the flat, and we think, okay, cool, big animal, no problem. But then when you start to see them navigating over rocks, and I have watched elephants climb up really steep slopes that are very rocky and muddy, and they have no problem. I wouldn't have been able to have gone up. They've got incredible tread underneath their feet. And I suppose they're just pretty good at distributing their weight as well. They've got a technique that works for them. I'm still working on my technique. Anyways, let's go back across to Scott. He's still with his cheetah, and I wonder what they're going to do next.
Well, you wouldn't believe it. She's actually lost her son. You can see she's trying to call him. Watch closely. And she is heading in the completely opposite direction. So she obviously just got a little bit discombobulated in all the excitements. And shame. The problem is, because it's so windy, I think her call is being blown away from her son. It's like a high-pitched, almost a chirp. Another incredible scene with the zebra in the background. Oh. Too good to be true. And it means that we now are going to have an interesting morning because, well, we've already had an incredibly interesting morning, but a further interesting morning because who knows how long it's going to take before she catches up with him. And I'm wondering
is there a chance that he can hear her calls, but he's avoiding her because that way he knows he gets to have all of the breakfast? Which would be very naughty and selfish of him, because now she's panicking. She's literally going all the way back towards where they slept this morning in completely the wrong direction to where he is. Shame. And can you believe that in all that excitement, she had no idea where he was? Let me just reposition one last time so we can enjoy the last few minutes with her coming straight down the barrel towards us. Still no vultures moving into the area where the boys busy snacking on that young topi, so that's quite interesting. Maybe they've got better options elsewhere, and sometimes, I mean, they just don't get the message. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, what could well happen is that while she tries to call her boy, there are some lions in the riverbed not too far away from here. And they may well get her audio and come and chase her away. These lions have got tiny little cubs tucked away in the thickets. So that is something that we could possibly expect to see. I'm not sure if you guys are picking up that audio. Yes, Holly, this is quite sad, but it's nothing serious. I mean, she'll be a little bit concerned, but they're going to work things out, and there's certainly nothing to worry about for the time being. I'm sure on many, many occasions they have separated and gone their own ways for possibly days before reuniting. I think it's part and parcel of their lives, and we must remember that their senses are just so much better than ours, and they should have no trouble working out where one another are. Listen carefully now that she gets closer. She lets out a low kind of rumbling purr sometimes after she calls, which is very interesting audio, kind of like a grrr. She did it there, but you're going to battle to hear it, I think. But now that she's closer, maybe, just maybe, you will. Very bird-like tweeting almost. Shame, Ali. You did such a great job this morning catching up with that topi, and your boy is busy eating it while you search for him. Absolutely awesome. Okay. Well, I think because she's now ducked behind these cars, we're not going to get some more views of her, but we'll get some beautiful views of some zebra and topi on the horizon as we say goodbye to you, and we can just enjoy a few moments of tranquility and peace after what has been an incredibly exciting end to the end of drive. Well done to everyone involved, the crew down in Djuma, as well as the team up here in the Mara. It's been absolutely awesome having you guys along with us on safari. We'll be out again an hour earlier today. Make sure you join us.